Ladies and gentlemen, this is Lions Den with another news and commentary. Vice News, I will give a shout out to them. They're doing an exclusive investigation of the Breonna Taylor case. Now, they're going to tell you what really happened. And they released this video 3 weeks ago. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you play it, and then I'm gonna stop on a lot of videos to give you my 2 cents in on this investigation. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this, and I'm gonna continue the rest of my commentary.
Everybody over here, we're about to leave in a second. Can't stop the revolution! You can't stop the revolution!
It's been more than 4 months since Breonna Taylor was killed by police, and almost no one's happy with the lack of movement in her case. So some big profile organizers, including Linda Sarsour, Tamika Mallory, and my son Lennon, are in town to keep up the pressure.
You can't stop the revolution!
It's been months. And we still talking about somebody doing an investigation. Her family is grieving, her mother is grieving, and there's no level of urgency for justice in this case.
I said arrest! Send those killer cops to jail! The whole damn system is guilty as hell! I said arrest!
What message are you hoping to send today?
Well, today the message we're sending is the officers who killed Breonna Taylor have to be arrested. It's not, we're not taking no for an answer, you know? And if we have to lose our freedom, then we're willing to do that.
We are outside the Attorney General's home. Charge the cops.
No justice! No justice!
People are not afraid. They realize what it's going to take to get liberation, to get justice, to get freedom, all of those things. And people are willing to do whatever it takes to get it.
Justice for Breonna Taylor. Justice for Breonna Taylor. Justice for Breonna Taylor. Sis, you can turn your back on me like you turned on the black community, but you can still hear me. So until you stand up against these racist officers on your police force, Breonna Taylor's blood is on your hands, sis.
Am I offending you? Are you angry?
Don't forget what
I'm angry. I'm angry. Your people showing my people. I'm angry. Go back to the school and let's get arrested.
They coming violent.
Do me update.
They got batons. They're gonna beat my black ass.
In all, 87 protesters sat on Attorney General Daniel Cameron's lawn and were arrested one by one. One of the defining features of Breonna Taylor's case is how little information has been shared with the public. There's still only a minimal understanding of what even happened the night she was killed. Over the past 2 months, Vice News has interviewed neighbors, spoken with current and former police officers, and reviewed hundreds of pages of internal documents that together cast doubt on the credibility of the Louisville Metro Police Department and the ongoing investigation into Taylor's death by the Attorney General's office. One of the first videos to emerge from that night was taken by Naya, who lives upstairs. She started filming as...
Okay, the woman you're about to see, ladies and gentlemen, her name is Naya. She was one of the witnesses that heard gunshots, that heard police officers breaking in Breonna Taylor's apartment. Now, for the first time, you're going to hear her side of what happened, and that the police did not even say police before they even entering the apartment. So here it is.
Taylor's boyfriend, Kenny Walker, out of the apartment.
Turn around and face away! Give me one patrolman like this.
You can hear Kenny.
He was probably not traumatized.
Keep walking backward! Walk down!
It seems like he's following what they're saying, following their orders.
He was. He got on his knees and everything. Look at all the police out there.
How many police would you say, if you had to guess, were outside?
At least 20. And including the SWAT and stuff, it was a lot.
Naya wasn't the only neighbor who caught a glimpse of the commotion outside. only 3 officers, Brett Hankison, Jonathan Mattingly, and Miles Cosgrove, have been identified in connection with the shooting. But previously unseen cell phone footage obtained by Vice News shows as many as 24 officers on scene shortly after the raid, including several in uniform, who, according to LMPD policy, should be wearing a body camera.
What is it about? You forgot to fire the shots. You knew. You just said you were not.
In the bed, we were scared. No, we didn't know who it was.
But it's not just that there were more police there after. There were also at least 4 more officers present during the raid, according to Detective Mattingly's own testimony.
I scooted back, and I think at that time Miles slid up. I know Tony was behind me. Mike was to the right of the door with the Ram. It was Brett, Hoover, and Campbell had come up around the corner at that point by the stairs.
So far, LMPD has never acknowledged whether any of those other officers were wearing body cameras. They barely even acknowledged that they were there. Mattingly claims he and the other officers announced themselves. But so far, nobody else has corroborated that. Did you hear the police announce themselves?
No, they didn't say police or nothing, because if I would have knew it was the police, my mama, she would have never called the police from the jump. I heard come out and I heard shots. So my mama, she runs in the room, she's like, oh my God, they shooting, get down, get down. So she's calling the police.
911 operator guidance, where is your emergency?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Nyla's mother. She is one of the witnesses that called the police that night because they didn't even know they were police officers. So here we go.
How many shots did you hear? Man, they shot about 7 or 8 of them. They were right here in front of my fucking house. And I got my grandbaby and my kids in here.
I'm hearing them say reload. Bop, 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 bop. They finally cut the lights on to let us know it was the police. So I'm like, Mama, the police is out here. So she hangs up with them. The police came all wrong. They came with undercover clothes, undercover cars. They didn't announce themselves or none of that. They did it heartless. They didn't care.
Has anyone come and talked to you from the police department, from the city, to get your version of what you heard, what happened?
The FBI is the only people that came up here and actually talked to me.
Didn't you hear what she just said? The LMPD, the Internal Affairs, none of them didn't interview this witness except the FBI. So it shows you so much corruption in the LMPD. Continue on.
The police, they haven't
Interview me or nothing, so it's just sad. Now that I just think about it, it's just sad. Like, she should still be alive right now. She should.
At least half a dozen other nearby neighbors told us they also had never been contacted by the AG or LMPD for questioning. In response to a request for comment, the AG's office said the allegations were unequivocally false, but refused to provide any clarification beyond that. LMPD simply never responded.
Of course they did.
In response to the lack of transparency and accountability, David James, a former LMPD officer who now serves as the president of the city council, has proposed several changes to how the department responds to these kinds of incidents. And he's already been met with pushback in meetings with the police department.
We're doing virtual meetings right now. And that is my least favorite kind of meeting.
We've got several special guests, Dr. Bill Smock, Chief Robert Schroeder, Louisville Metro Police Department, and Ryan Nichols, the president of the Fraternal Order of the Police.
Councilwoman Sexton Smith and I had discussed early on during the Breonna Taylor incident why we don't do drug and alcohol testing at the time of critical incidents involving our police officers.
We have random drug testing, and then there is also a provision in the contract that states Metro government may require a member involved in a use of deadly force incident resulting in an injury to take a drug and alcohol test.
To your knowledge, has that ever taken place when an officer's been involved in a critical incident?
Not, tested anyone involved in a critical incident, a shooting. Of course, there has to be some sort of a reasonable suspicion or other input to something.
On On July 14th, James and the other 10 members of the Metro Council voted unanimously to launch an investigation into the city's handling of Taylor's case. They, just like the public, are frustrated by the lack of transparency into what happened that night.
I really feel like because Metro government has not said what did or did not occur, it causes people to have less trust and belief in their government.
You said in a letter to the mayor that the trust between Louisville Metro and the people we serve is eroding at a pace that may soon pass the point of restoration.
Correct.
It's irreparable. Why did you write that?
Because it's true.
Do you think that the LMPD is capable of holding itself accountable?
I don't think so, because they haven't proven themselves to be able to do that. There's been time after time where things have happened, and it directly reflects upon LMPD trying to cover up bad things that have happened, mostly from the top. There were questions brought up about the children being molested, and it was all denied, but now we have 2 officers in federal penitentiary.
See, what you're about to see again, ladies and gentlemen, you see all these former officers of LMPD who've been accused of sexual assault, but they try to cover it up like other officers are. But it also shows you that it's been problems with the LMPD since day one. They try to cover up and protect these police officers of any wrongdoing. So let's continue.
It was brought up about abuse of overtime, and it was denied. Now we have officers in the penitentiary.
What do you think gets in the way of holding police accountable, of holding the police department accountable?
I really think it's leadership. And if you don't hold the supervisors below you accountable, then bad things happen.
All 3 of the officers who fired their weapons on the night Taylor was killed have been subject to previous internal LMPD investigations. Brett Hankison's personnel file includes multiple sexual assault allegations, at least 3 internal criminal investigations, and a use.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to see is Brett Hankerson's past. Now, you notice the mainstream media never brought up Brett Hankerson's past. But yet, when it comes to, black people in this country, they all love to bring up our past of wrongdoing. So for the first time, Vice News is covering all the stuff that Hankerson has done right before the shooting of Breonna Taylor, from sexual assault all the way up. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go.
The force file that's 104 pages long. In a 2008 email obtained by Vice News, a lieutenant recommended an internal criminal investigation into Hankison and 2 other officers accused of beating up a juvenile. She cited, quote, the allegations and, unfortunately, the employees involved, who have had use of force cases in the past where it always comes down to their word against the complainants. Hankison and the other officers were eventually cleared in that case. Internal LMPD investigations show that the department almost always ruled in Hankison's favor. In 2012, Hankison was elected to serve on the Police Merit Board, which helps make decisions about police misconduct. This past January, he began his 4th term and continued attending meetings even after being placed on administrative reassignment. Hankison was on the board until June 23rd, the day he was fired. We reached out to Hankison's lawyer for comment, but never heard back. Vice News has spoken with multiple former LMPD officers who said the department regularly covers up bad behavior. One of them, Richard Gibbs, has worked for 6 police departments in his career and says nothing came close to the unchecked misconduct he witnessed within LMPD. He retired from the department in 2015.
I don't even feel good like I used to feel about being a police officer.
Did you witness police abusing their power on the force?
Yes, I have. And the biggest one is use of force, putting your hands on somebody when you don't have to. I've even seen situations where I went to do a narcotic search and the guy's telling me that is not mine. They put that there. A little bag of dope, some crack.
Do you believe that person?
Yes, I do, because there is situations where that's done.
But that's a crazy thing you just said. You just said that you're a former police officer, that is something that's done.
Yes, dropping dope. They call it dropping dope.
Who's they?
Police officers.
So, ladies and gentlemen, y'all, this former officer just said that they're just planting drugs on anybody. Anybody. And it proven time and time again how corrupt LMPD really is. So let's continue.
Teabagging is when you squat over a person's face and either put your genitals closer on them. And this particular lieutenant did this, and it was a joke. It was a laughing joke throughout the department. And nothing was really done to him, taking someone's dignity, squatting in their face.
This is to someone who was arrested, like in handcuffs on the floor, or detained?
Yes, this is someone who's arrested.
And what were the other officers doing?
Just like with Floyd, standing around looking.
Why do you think more officers, current officers, are not speaking out?
They're scared. They're scared, and they've been brainwashed to think that you just don't do that. I never felt comfortable or even at ease of going to like the chief and say, hey chief, there's some racism or some unfairness going on, look into it. No.
Did you witness retaliation in the department?
I was pulled into an internal affairs investigation where an officer used excessive force. When I told the truth, the colonel kept asking me, is that the truth? Like, is there another scenario that you want to give? And I picked up on it right away that she was trying to get me to change my story. Well, this guy that was, alleged to do this got promoted. And that's what I've seen the police department do. When these people do things that are against policy, they're promoted.
What happened to you after you tried to tell what happened?
Just basically ostracized. For instance, if I wanted to try to get on another special unit, the door was shut. Blackballed.
Do you think that Breonna Taylor's case is an isolated example?
No, it's not isolated. If you dig in LMPD's history, they got a long history of shooting people. This city has buried a lot of bodies. There's a lot of skeletons.
Vice News has filed multiple open records requests with the police department related to the night Breonna Taylor was killed, but they've yet to turn over any documents. The Attorney General's office declined a request for an interview. The Louisville Metro Police Department never responded. But we did sit down with Mayor Greg Fisher, who's been a target of the protesters demanding transparency and accountability, and who has both access to information about Taylor's death and the power to release it. The Attorney General's office, the FBI, they took up this case in mid-May, but Breonna Taylor was killed on March 13th. So you had about 2 months to share information with the public, to be forthright with them. You as mayor have the ability to share information. Why didn't you in those first 2 months?
So I said, let's put out the body camera evidence. Unfortunately, in this case, we did have a press conference. There's no body camera evidence, and that is what the real frustrating part is about the whole Breonna Taylor tragedy. Is with body camera evidence, we would know what took place.
In Detective Mattingly's testimony, he mentioned at least 7 officers who were on scene during the entry. Were those officers wearing body cameras?
Not to my knowledge.
You as mayor have access to that information. Have you asked for it?
I've been briefed on the PIU. That issue's not been addressed immediately. If there's body camera evidence that was at the moment of when all the action went down, it's not been produced, that would be a significant problem.
I believe that the department said that the 3 officers who discharged their weapon were not wearing body cameras. Brett Hankeson, Miles Cosgrove, and Mattingly. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Were you aware of the 4 other officers on scene during the entry?
I was aware that there's other officers outside, and obviously more officers came after the incident took place.
But those are the 7 who were there during the entry. Mattingly makes that fairly clear in his testimony. Was that news to you?
My focus has been on, officer with the warrant, Chains, and then Cosgrove, Mattingly, and Hankinson.
We've spoken to more than a dozen of Breonna Taylor's neighbors, either directly or through lawyers. Most of them have told us that they've never been questioned by anyone other than the FBI, not by the AG's office, not by the LMPD. How can those offices conduct a thorough investigation without talking to people who were present for the raid, were eyewitnesses to the raid in some cases, who called 911?
Yeah, but what's important to me, obviously, is the truth comes out in this case, and that's why I did ask the FBI and the AG and the U.S. Attorney to get involved with this.
7 who sat on his lawn. There's still no timetable for the AG's investigation.
The sacrifice that was made today is history. You understand? Yes, it's history.
Every single protester, all 87 of us, have been charged with a felony. But to be clear, that felony charge is bullshit. Yeah. You did this to us, we're coming back. We're not afraid. We're here for the long term.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. I will give a shout out to Vice News for this story. Now, they released this story 3 weeks ago, and it goes to show you how corrupt these police officers are. And it looks to me they identified one witness, and obviously they said that they never heard police officers, knock on Breonna Taylor's door. Nothing. And you also heard that they haven't even interviewed by LMPD, the Attorney General's office, the Internal Affairs, nothing, y'all. And it shows you right there that it's proven that this is corruption 101. This is the cover-up. So y'all let me know what you think about this. Like, click, subscribe, and remember to click the notification bell for all the news and commentary. With that being said, this is Lights In signing off. Deuces.